Welcome to Bite Size Podcast on how to read humans and FBI agent guide. Ever wish you had a little superpower to understand what people are really thinking and feeling? Imagine walking into a room and having a better sense of the dynamics at play, maybe even gaining a subtle edge in conversations. This deep dive pulls insights from someone who spent 25 years in the FBI, dealing with situations where understanding human behavior wasn't just helpful, it was critical. We're talking about reading people, not as some kind of parlor trick, but really as a way to better understand ourselves and, the world around us. Let's think about something really fundamental. Our faces. They're constantly sending signals, aren't they? Take eyebrows, for instance. When someone pushes their eyebrows together, that little furrow right there, it often indicates they don't quite get something, a lack of understanding.
Yeah, it's almost an automatic response to confusion or maybe even doubt. If you're explaining something complex and you see that, it's a pretty clear cue.
A sign to maybe rephrase or slow down.
Exactly. And what about lips? They're incredibly revealing too.
Yeah. Right, the guide mentioned something fascinating. When we hear something we don't like, blood can actually leave the lips. They might tighten up.
Precisely. It's like a tiny physical recoil. The lips get thinner, tighter. It's a very reliable indicator of displeasure or discomfort, even if the person's trying to hide it.
Which kind of makes you think about confidence, doesn't it? How does that show up?
Well, a lack of confidence often manifests in these little tells, these insecurities, maybe fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we've all seen that. But the big question is, are you just born confident, or is it something you can actually learn?
Oh, absolutely trainable.
Yeah.
The Bureau actually teaches strategies for building confidence. It's not some mystical
How
quality.
does that work?
Well, one key is starting small. Find one thing, just one, that you are genuinely confident about. Maybe a skill, a piece of knowledge.
Okay.
Competence in one area builds a foundation, starts to spill over, creating broader confidence.
So competence breeds confidence, makes sense. And what about outward behaviors? Can you fake it till you make it?
To an extent. Observing confident leaders, people you admire, and consciously replicating some of their behaviors can definitely help. Think about posture, how they carry themselves.
And voice, too, right. The guide mentioned using a deeper tone.
Yes, a lower register tends to convey more authority. And critically, avoid ending sentences with that upward inflection.
Like you're asking a question all the time.
Exactly. It undermines your statement. Speak with declarative intonation.
What about space? How we physically exist in a room.
That's crucial. Occupy the space you're entitled to. Don't appear shriveled, or conversely, try to puff yourself up unnaturally large. It's about a comfortable, assertive presence.
And speaking cadence, like Churchill or Martin Luther King Jr., that sounds powerful.
It is. Speaking with a deliberate rhythm, with pauses. It allows listeners to process, to connect emotionally. It's not just what you say, but how the rhythm lands.
So less rushing, more impact.
Precisely. And don't forget hands. They're incredibly expressive. Well, open palms, spread fingers can signal honesty, care, but watch for tucked-in thumbs that can sometimes indicate fear or insecurity. Our hands are noticed, even in low light.
Wow. Okay, let's shift gears. How fast do we actually judge people? I heard it's incredibly quick.
Unbelievably quick. We're talking within the first 3 milliseconds. Faster than a blink.
3 milliseconds, that's almost instantaneous.
It is. And research on these thin slice assessments, as they're called, shows they can be surprisingly accurate.
Accurate? Like how accurate?
Studies suggest around 75% accuracy in judging traits like warmth or competence just from these tiny slices of behavior.
That's staggering. It really puts pressure on first impressions, even though they happen subconsciously.
It highlights their importance, absolutely.
Yeah.
That initial gut feeling is formed incredibly rapidly.
Okay, so first impressions matter. What about building connection after that first blink? How do we create harmony?
Through synchrony. Mirroring others, non-verbally, subtly adopting their posture, their gestures creates a psychological bond.
So if someone greets you warmly, lots of open gestures.
You mirror that back, responding kind. Avoid a discordant response, like crossing your arms if they're open. That creates an immediate barrier.
It's often subconscious, right? We do it naturally when we connect with someone.
We do. But you can also do it consciously to build rapport. Even small things like mirroring speech patterns or pace can help.
So in a negotiation, for instance.
Definitely. Matching someone's pace, their tone, can make them more receptive. Avoid abrupt shifts in your own energy if they're calm, or vice versa. Maintain that synchrony.
And if someone's emotional, how do you connect then?
You try to ground yourself first, then, crucially, Use their language. If they talk about their family, you echo family, not switch to your wife and kids.
Using their specific terms?
Yes. And avoid jargon. Speak their emotional language to show you're truly listening and understanding.
Which leads to acknowledging emotions. We shouldn't try to suppress them in interactions.
Absolutely not. Emotions are vital. They're part of our survival kit. And negative emotions especially tend to grab our attention first.
So what do we do with negative emotions in, say, a business meeting?
Acknowledge them. Address any negative experiences or feelings before jumping into the transactional stuff. Sometimes telling a relevant story can help deconflict the situation.
Give space for it.
Yes, allow time for venting if needed. Clearing that emotional static makes way for more productive interaction.
Okay, let's dive into some really specific nonverbal cues mentioned in the guide. That eyebrow, knitting the glabella furrow.
Right, the spot between the eyebrows. Furrowing there usually means doubt, dislike, or confusion. It's a reliable signal that something's amiss for the other person.
What about touching the eyelids?
Often a stress response, like touching or rubbing your eyes when you hear bad news. It's a self-soothing behavior, possibly linked to cranial nerves. Interestingly, even people born blind do it.
So it's instinctual.
It needs to be. But context matters. It can sometimes happen during pleasant moments, too, like a pacifier for excitement. You have to read the whole cluster of signals.
And the lips, the emotional seismograph.
A great description. Full, relaxed lips generally mean comfort. Narrowing, tightening, pressing them together that signals discomfort, stress, negative thoughts.
Lip biting, too. Or plucking.
Definitely signs of stress or holding something back. Also, watch the jaw clenching or shifting can indicate disagreement or a desire to check out of the conversation.
Okay, one more specific one. The suprasternal notch. That dip at the base of the neck.
Ah, yes. A very vulnerable spot. Covering or touching it, women often touch the notch directly. Men might rub the back of their neck, frequently signals insecurity, fear, or concern.
So avoiding touching your neck projects confidence.
Generally, yes, especially in high-stakes situations like negotiations. Also related are ventilating behaviors, pulling at a collar, for example. It suggests something negative is affecting them, making them feel hot or stressed. It's primal, protecting the neck.
Fascinating. Let's talk more about negotiation. The guide framed it not as combat, but as communication.
Exactly. Effective communication with a purpose. That mindset shift is crucial.
And face-to-face interaction is still vital.
Hugely important. So much is lost when you can't see the full spectrum of nonverbal cues. Keep the communication flowing, ideally in person when possible.
What about preparing? Knowing your counterpart.
Essential. Try to understand their style beforehand. Are they aggressive, collaborative, analytical? Knowing helps you prepare your strategy.
And if you do face aggression, what's the advice?
Don't escalate. Don't meet fire with fire. Instead, control the pace. Slow things down deliberately. Taking control of the tempo often shifts the power dynamic back to you.
And know your limits, right? Be ready to walk away.
Absolutely. Know your bottom line, your non-negotiables,
Right.
and honestly assess the long-term cost of tolerating bad behavior. Sometimes walking away is the strongest move.
It also sounds like having clear goals before you start is critical.
Immensely. Define exactly what you need to achieve. It keeps you anchored, prevents you from getting swayed by emotions or minor tactics.
What about your own team's nonverbals during a negotiation?
You need to be aware of them. Your team's reactions, a subtle eye roll, a sigh can unintentionally undermine your position. Everyone needs to be aligned.
And the environment itself. Seating arrangements.
Yes, those details matter psychologically. Who enters first, where people sit. Even sitting slightly higher, maybe your chair is an inch or two taller, can subtly convey dominance.
Which relates to that height dividend idea.
Exactly. Taller individuals are often perceived, subconsciously, as more powerful. It's not about intelligence, just a sort of primal perception. Using chair height is a way to leverage that subtly.
Okay, shifting slightly. What's the still face experiment? It sounds ominous.
It kind of is. Maintaining a completely blank, expressionless face during an interaction is deeply unsettling for humans. It's perceived as a threat, reduces trustworthiness, and makes the other person feel insignificant.
So poker faces are actually bad for connection.
Generally, yes. We need feedback. Even small nods, subtle smiles, brow movements, they show engagement, especially on video calls. Don't be a statue.
Good tip. What about building rapport quickly?
Act fast. Moving quickly to greet someone, shake their hand. It shows you value them and the interaction. Enthusiasm matters.
And simple etiquette, like waiting for a guest to sit first.
Yes. Small gestures of deference. It avoids appearing unintentionally dominant and creates a more comfortable atmosphere.
What's the take on note-taking during conversations, good or bad?
It's a balance. It looks attentive, but if you're constantly looking down, writing furiously, you will miss crucial nonverbal cues.
So the advice is,
Jot down keywords or brief points to revisit later, but prioritize observation. Watch and listen more than you write.
okay, handshakes, we touched on it, but any specifics?
Fingers pointing down, not parallel to the ground. Equal pressure match the other person's, don't overpower or be limp. A brief, appropriate touch on the upper arm after the shake can enhance connection, but read the situation.
Got it. Now, the guide outlined some traits of exceptional people. What stood out?
Self-mastery was first. This relentless pursuit of knowledge and skills, often self-driven, creating your own learning path, acquiring abilities no one can take from you.
Like continuous improvement.
Exactly. Second was observation, really paying close attention to people, events, opportunities. Great insights often come from noticing what others overlook. The advice was even to hire good observers.
Third,
Communication, but with a strong emphasis on the nonverbal. It's the most powerful channel for conveying genuine care, empathy, and your true intentions.
more powerful than words.
Often, yes. Actions, or rather nonverbals, speak louder, which leads to the fourth trait, action. Promptness shows commitment and care. Delay can feel like indifference.
And the last one was quite interesting, psychological comfort.
Yes, humans crave psychological safety. We're often drawn to people and situations that make us feel comfortable, understood, and safe, sometimes even more than achieving a perfect outcome.
So whoever provides that comfort gains influence.
That's the idea. Create a comfortable environment, acknowledge others' perspectives, make them feel heard. Even in negotiation, finding an outcome the other side can live with comfortably is key to agreement.
Let's touch on a difficult personality type. Narcissists. How do we spot them?
Key traits include an overinflated sense of self, constantly devaluing others, a profound lack of empathy, often lying or bending truth, and expecting total one-way loyalty.
Challenging.
And often toxic. These individuals can be very damaging emotionally, mentally, even financially in the long run.
So what's the strategy for dealing with them?
First, recognition. Then set firm boundaries. Decide how much you're willing to tolerate, and understand that trying to change them or win their approval is usually futile.
So distance might be necessary.
Often, yes. Minimizing contact or exiting the relationship or situation might be the healthiest option if their behavior is consistently harmful.
And it's noted that people can have a mix of negative traits, right? Like narcissism and paranoia, or even psychopathy.
Yes, these aren't always neat boxes. Psychopathy involves that chilling lack of remorse, empathy, or conscience. Understanding the spectrum helps identify potentially dangerous individuals.
What's the line between healthy self-belief and narcissism? They can seem similar sometimes.
The key difference is that narcissism requires devaluing others to prop up the self. There's an inherent belief system that the narcissist is superior and infallible. Healthy self-belief doesn't need to put others down.
And the guy suggested society might be getting more narcissistic.
There's some observation of that, yeah. Changes in language, focus on self-promotion. It's a trend some have noted over recent decades.
Finally, reflecting on all this, the expert's experience in law enforcement seemed quite profound.
It sounds like it provided a real window into humanity, seeing the fundamental goodness in many victims and witnesses, but also the stark reality of dealing with extreme, harmful belief systems.
Learning about people isn't always easy.
No, it's often incremental, and personal experiences, especially difficult ones, leave deep imprints. But the takeaway seemed hopeful. Despite seeing the worst, there's still immense kindness and pro-social behavior out there.
It's a complex picture.
Very much so.
So, understanding human behavior, it's really a continuous journey, isn't it? Constant learning, constant observation. But by focusing on these key insights, nonverbal cues, confidence builders, personality traits, you really can gain an advantage, or at least navigate interactions more effectively. Think about how these principles might play out in your own life. Your daily conversations, maybe bigger things like negotiations at work. What nonverbal signals might you start noticing now? And maybe more importantly, how could you adjust your own communication to build better connections, make people feel more psychologically comfortable around you? Something to consider. See you soon with another guide like this.